Good afternoon, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. This is Rich again, back for your second video blog of the day for Friday, August 7, 2015, around 5:25 in the afternoon in Billerica, Massachusetts. Nice and sunny day out, calm, dry, low humidity, highs in the 70s. It's something that's like a late summer day instead of the dog days of August. And that's good. Several more days like this. But the heat and humidity will make a return one more last time before an early fall. I think we're going to have an early fall this year. And I've heard rumors about an early winter. First snowfall is predicted. I'm hearing late September and early October. Keep you posted on that. Some news to report. WWE owner Vince McMahon is once again a billionaire because of the growth of the WWE network. And the Cleveland Indians traded outfielder Michael Bourne and first baseman Nick Swisher to the Atlanta Braves for third baseman Chris Johnson. This trade's not going to help either of these teams because they're out of the pennant race. And that's about it on the news. My next video blog subject is about 1995. 1995 will go down as the worst year in professional wrestling in North America. So many factors why it was the worst year ever in professional wrestling. The first factor was the WWE almost went out of business in 1995. WWE was struggling in the early 90s and stuff because of the steroid scandal. Vince McMahon was indicted, but he was acquitted of steroid trial in July of 1994. But that his defense team cost him millions and millions of dollars, which if he didn't go on steroid trial for steroids, he could have invested in the product and stuff. And WWE was losing money left and right. House show business was down. Pay-per-view business was down in the WWE. And they just, sometimes house shows, only 2,000 people showed up in a building that seat 20,000 and stuff. And that almost caused the WWE to go out of business. Another reason why 1995 was one of the worst year in professional wrestling in North America ever, the demise of Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Smoky Mountain Wrestling was a regional promotion that covered the Carolinas, Virginia, Georgia, Eastern Tennessee, and Kentucky and stuff. It was run by Jim Cornette, and it lasted from 1992 through 1995. They had some great talent like the Heavenly Bodies and the Rock and Roll Express and Al Snow and Unabomber, who was Kane, and Buddy Landau and Terry Gordy and Brad Armstrong and so many others. But the Smoky Mountain Wrestling was actually a feeder system for the WWE and WCW. Plus, in addition, Smoky Mountain Wrestling did not get on good time slots in places they were going across the country overnight or real early in the morning and stuff. Plus, it never had a pay-per-view and stuff. And also, to make matters worse, Jim Cornette in 1993 had a working relationship with the WWE. Talent from Smoky Mountain Wrestling and WWE would go back and forth and stuff. Was beneficial for a while, but by 1995 it was over because Jim Cornette could not compete with WCW or the WWE, and he took a job full-time as a booker in WWE. It was too bad because Smoky Mountain Wrestling was probably the last great regional wrestling promotion of ever, and I think Jim Cornette was trying to capture Smoky Mountain Wrestling in the early 90s to replace maybe Jim Crockett Promotions and Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling area because of the sense of WCW to return to the small towns, which they don't go to, the major wrestling organizations. He gave it to us all, but it wasn't enough. Another reason why professional wrestling in 1995 in North America and the United States was the worst ever. It was staleness at the top for Hulk Hogan and other wrestlers. Hulk Hogan was WCW World Champion from July 1994 1994 through October of 1995, but most of 1995 he still wore the red and the yellow, and also said take your vitamins, say your prayers, and he still flexed muscles and stuff. But a lot of WCW fans especially booed Hogan. About maybe 10 to 25% of the building booed Hogan and stuff like that. And Hogan was like getting to have more power behind the scenes in WCW because of creative control and stuff. And some of the feuds he had in 1995 were not that great. He had a long running feud with Vader, which at the Clash of Champions in January 1995, after Vader attacked Hulk Hogan after a tag team match with the Megamaniacs, which him and Randy Savage against the two of the three faces of fear, the Butcher and Kevin Sullivan. Vader gave Hogan a powerbomb, but Hogan no-sold it, and he just that killed Vader's chances of regaining the WCW championship and also becoming still a big time player in WCW. Vader and Hogan had a 3-match series in pay-per-view, Super Brawl 5 and Uncensored, which, you know, he lost. Vader and Hogan wrestled in a strap match. Hogan won that match because Ric Flair was on the strap and stuff like that. That was awful. And also the steel cage match between Hogan and Vader at like Bash at the Beach was decent, but, you know, a little bit awful and stuff. And also Hogan got into a feud with the Dungeon of Doom. The Dungeon of Doom was Kevin Sullivan, the Taskmaster, and Kamala, and the Zodiac, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, and Shock, who was Avalanche, and Maine, who was Maine, and also the Giant, which WCW billed as Andre the Giant's son, which it was awful. And this, with Hogan's feud over the Dungeon of Doom, lasted several months and stuff. The Dungeon of Doom beat up on Hogan several times, especially the Giant at Fall Brawl. He interfered after, like, Hogan's team won, like, against the Dungeon of Doom at War Games. Hogan got 5 minutes with Kevin Sullivan, but the Giant interfered and like injured Hogan's neck. A few weeks later, Dungeon of Doom again attacked Hulk Hogan, and this time they shaved Hogan's beard, and then Hogan appeared on the next Nitro dressed in black and stuff. It was probably a tease for him to do a tweener role and stuff, or maybe him turn heel and stuff like that. And it was, you know, okay. Hogan faced off against the Giant twice at Halloween Havoc 1995 pay-per-view, a monster sumo truck match, which Hogan won, but afterwards the Giant attacked him, but he fell over the roof. That was awful. And then they had another match, like for the WCW World Title, Hogan against the Giant, and Hogan slammed the Giant, but Jimmy Hart hit the referee, and Jimmy Hart turned on Hogan, and the Giant won by disqualification and stuff. And Jimmy Hart and Lex Luger joined the Dungeon of Doom. Come to find out, Jimmy Hart put in the contract that Hogan could lose the belt by disqualification, which he did, but they did not give the belt to the Giant because of the dubious distinction of the interference and stuff, and they put the belt on up on World War III and stuff like that. That Jimmy Hart heel turn should have happened months earlier and prior, but I think maybe him and Hogan were tight backstage and also creative control and stuff like that. And when Jimmy Hart and Lex Luger turned heel, they were being cheered by the crowd like crazy and stuff like that. And a few weeks afterwards, Hogan goes back to the red and yellow and stuff. And the fans were okay about that, but still a lot of fans was, getting tired of Hogan's like red and yellow act and the Real American in 1995. He should have turned heel in 1995, but Hogan was still concerned about his merchandise and stuff because they were selling stuff. Another reason why professional wrestling in 1995 was the worst year ever in the United States. Crappy and lousy gimmicks in both WWE and WCW. This was the new generation of the WWE, but they still got crappy gimmicks and cartoon gimmicks, which was outlived its date in the 80s and early 90s. They had Mountain Rock as a guitar player who was in WCW as Max Payne. They had Manta, half man, half beast. He went nowhere in the WWE. They had Skip and Sonny, the Body Donners, which, that was loudmouth gurus and stuff. That was miscast for Chris Candido, but Sonny became the most downloaded celebrity on AOL. They had Bertha Faye, who was like kind of an overweight, like glamour queen with Harvey Whippleman. She won the women's title, but she dropped it a few weeks later to Orlando Braids and stuff. It was awful. They had Michael P.S. Hayes as announcer Doc Hendricks. That was awful. That was a misuse of talent for Michael P.S. Hayes. He was, he couldn't wrestle anymore, and they put him as an announcer. He should have been a manager, a mouthpiece for some of the wrestlers. And they also had they had Will and Mercy, which was an okay gimmick, but it didn't last too long. That potential. Shane Douglas came into WWE as Dean Douglas, critiquing matches and teachers and stuff. Another awful gimmick by the WWE. Dean Douglas didn't last long in the WWE because of the Clique holding him down. They had Fantasia or something. He was a wrestler who made only one appearance. He beat a preliminary wrestler by doing this his trunks with underwear, and then he disappears. Another awful gimmick. And they had Santa Claus. Ted DiBiase bought Santa Claus and stuff, and others in the WWE. That was the worst thing. WCW was not even was a little worse because of the Dungeon of Doom characters, Zodiac and Shark, and the mysterious Yeti, who only made one or two appearances and stuff. Plus, they had Disco Inferno, which, that was, kind of a lousy gimmick and stuff like that. Very, very odd. They also turned longtime tag team, specialist Bobby Eaton to the Earl of Eaton, teaming up with him with Steve Regal, which was, awful for Bobby Eaton, misusing his talents as a claim to be from England. And also another gimmick that was real awful was the love affair between Colonel Rob Parker and Sister Sherry. It was, it was so ridiculous and stuff that it was taking up time and stuff like that. Another reason why professional wrestling in 1995 was the worst in the United States and North America, it was the start of the Monday Night Wars between WCW and WWE, which, for the first 3 months of the Monday Night Wars, both WWE and WCW were trading wins, ratings rise. Nitro was on TNT, and Monday Night Raw was on the USA Network, and a lot of experts were saying WCW was committing suicide by putting Monday Nitro at 9 o'clock to face off against Monday Night Raw. Monday Nitro was going to be live every week, and WWE Monday Night Raw at the time, they were only live once every 4 weeks. And the first Monday Night Raw, the first Monday Night Nitro happened at the Mall of America in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and they had a shock value. Lex Luger, who was just days prior still under contract for the WWE, shows up on Monday Nitro, and then that's a shock value and stuff. But the rest of the Monday Nitro and Monday Night Raw in the last half of 1995 was, not that great and predictable and stuff. Traded wins here and there. 1 week Raw would win, 1 week Nitro would win. It would be very close and stuff like that. It was just watering down the product for both WWE and WCW. Monday Nitro put main event quality matches on all of their all of their shows and stuff, but some of these quality matches were like scenes you could have seen on Saturday night or pay-per-views and stuff like that. And Monday Night Raw still had maybe 1 or 2 feature matches, but they still had jobber matches and stuff like that, so that brought the things down. Another reason why professional wrestling in 1995 in the United States was the worst ever, more pay-per-views. WCW announced in 1995 it was going from 7 to 9 pay-per-views, and WWE were going to go from 5 to 9 as well. And it wasn't good because both WCW and WWE's talent roster the talent roster of the WWE was very thin and stuff like that, and some of the main events at pay-per-views were very awful. WWE introduced its In Your House series in May of 1995. The first In Your House, they gave away a house and stuff, but that was headlined by Diesel against Psycho Sid and stuff. They headlined 3 pay-per-views in a row and stuff like that. And also Diesel was a champion in WWE for most of 95. He was the worst drawing champion in WWE history and stuff. The pay-per-view buy rates in WWE was awful. There was not too much good pay-per-views in WWE in 1995. Maybe a few here and there. WCW, on the other hand, it was worse. It was worse because they still had Hogan as a headliner and stuff like that, which, he headlined most of the WCW pay-per-views in 1995, and, they were fair to bad, especially the last 4 WCW pay-per-views of 1995. Fall Brawl, Halloween Havoc, World War III, and Starrcade 95. 4 very bad pay-per-views. Only thing good about the pay-per-views in 1995, the last 4 of them, was the Arn Anderson Ric Flair match at Fall Brawl, which was a classic until the loose cannon Brian Pillman interfered, and then then Halloween Havoc 1995. I don't want to talk about that, but I'm going to review that soon. And World War III and stuff, the 60-man battle royal for the WCW World title, getting all 60 wrestlers in 3 rings was, confusion and stuff like that. And Starrcade 1995, they had the best of 7 series between New Japan and WCW. WCW won that 4-3, and it also had Ric Flair won the WCW World Championship. That probably saved that pay-per-view and stuff. But Starrcade was, tarnished beyond repair because they made many Starrcades probably gimmicky, which, that was WCW's biggest pay-per-view of the year. Starrcade. They should not make that gimmick tree. They should make it where all the big feuds culminate and stuff like that. Another reason why professional wrestling in 1995 was the worst ever, the end of WWE Wrestling Challenge as a match show. WWE Wrestling Challenge was basically squash matches after squash matches after squash matches. Maybe they have a feature match. It was a B level show for many years, but many people watched it because of Bobby the Brain Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon's commentary. By the early 1990s, Bobby the Brain Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon was phased out as announcers. From there, they had several different announcers. In September of 1995, WWE canceled Wrestling Challenge as a match show, and they showed highlights of it. It was very disappointing and stuff like that. It was another sign that the wrestling business was changing and stuff. And another reason why professional wrestling in 1995 was the worst ever, it was the start of the Clique. Shawn Michaels, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, and 1, 2, 3 Kid getting together and probably holding up the WWE for booking plans and stuff, and holding a lot of the wrestlers down and stuff like that. It was very awful for the Clique to get more power. A lot of wrestlers in the WWE quit from them, like Bam Bam Bigelow, John Pierre Lafitte, Dean Douglas and so many others, and also they controlled a lot of the belts and stuff. Diesel was WWE champion for most of the year. Shawn Michaels had a run as the Intercontinental champion. Razor Ramon had 3 runs as Intercontinental champion during that time. Razor Ramon was kind of losing steam as a face in 1995. He should have turned heel and stuff like that. But they had some good points in 1995 in professional wrestling in the United States. The start of like ECW getting a little bit bigger and bigger, but it still was on low budget stations and stuff like that. Plus they had some other stuff on that was decent in 1995. The Goldust gimmick with Dustin Rhodes and stuff, that was pretty good. And the ladder match between Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon at SummerSlam 1995. The British Bulldog's heel turn on Big Daddy Cool Diesel, and the shock value of Lex Luger showing up at the first Monday Night Raw were some of the good points. But the worst points of 1995 I mentioned, plus another bad point of why professional wrestling sucked in 1995 in the United States of America, directionless of 3 top wrestlers that were kind of franchise players in the world of professional wrestling in the early 1990s. Sting, Bret the Hitman Hart, and Nature Boy Ric Flair. Sting was the WCW franchise for many years, but in 1994-5, he descended to mid-card, which he was stuck in the entire year. Sting was kind of de-pushed when Hogan came into the WCW. Sting feuded with Avalanche, Big Bubba Rogers. He won the U.S. Championship for a little while, being mean and stuff. But he was, stuck down with a Flair with Nature Boy Ric Flair. Flair wanted him and Sting to be friends again because Arn Anderson and Brian Pillman threw him out of the Horsemen. But this was a plan to get Sting suckered in so Flair could turn on him and stuff like that. Sting lost the U.S. title to Kansuke Sasaki on a tour of Japan and stuff. And at the end of 1995, Sting formed a friendship with Lex Luger, who was heel and stuff, in a tag team. But like Hogan and Savage was kind of against it and stuff. And it was, that was kind of directionless. I think they maybe wanted turn Sting heel and stuff like that. But that would have been bad because Sting's not a heel; he's a face. So that was a disappointment for him in 1995. Also, Bret the Hitman Hart in 1995, for most of the year, he was stuck in mid-card doldrums in the WWE. He had a decent match with Big Daddy Cool Diesel at Royal Rumble 1995, but he just had awful matches. Owen Hart no holds barred match, kind of rehashing that storyline. It was kind of an endless feud for a while, then beating Bob Backlund in an I Quit match, and then feuding with Hakushi and Jerry the King Lawler and Isaac Yankem and John Pierre Lafitte, but he got back the WWE title at Survivor Series 1995 against Diesel, but he was a transitional champion to Shawn Michaels in 1996 in WrestleMania 12, but he had a great match at In Your House at 5 against the British Bulldog Davey Boy Smith. But Bret the Hitman Hart sticking in mid-card in 1995 was awful because he was 2-time WWE champion prior. He should have been in main events. And Nature Boy Ric Flair in 1995, for most of 1995, he was another one that was kind of directionless. He was forced to retire when he lost to Hulk Hogan at Halloween Havoc 1994. He was on the sidelines for a couple of months, came back as Vader's manager and stuff like that. And he actually, eventually, Hogan and Savage wanted him reinstated. He got back reinstated. He had a few months feud with Savage, and then he and Arn Anderson had dissension among the ranks, and they had that classic match at Fall Brawl, which Brian Pillman interfered. Flair was back face, wanted him to team up with Sting. Sting accepted, but at Halloween Havoc 95, it was just a ploy. Ric Flair was kind of injured, but when he tagged Sting, he attacked Sting. That was predictable and stuff. And the rest of 95, Flair and Sting kind of had a feud, but he was redeemed at the end of 1995, Starrcade 95, when he won back the WCW World title and stuff like that. And also, 1995 in the world of professional wrestling, the biggest, misleading thing in 1995 for the world of professional wrestling happened in WCW. That they, at Uncensored 1995, Hulk Hogan and Jimmy Hart were predicting an ultimate surprise and stuff, meaning speculation that the Ultimate Warrior was going to come to WCW. And at Uncensored 1995, a guy shows up in paint, war paint, but it's not the Ultimate Warrior, it's the Renegade. This was the biggest disappointment or biggest ripoff ever, having Renegade, who never looked like the Ultimate Warrior, just push off and stuff, like imitate and stuff. That's another reason why 1995 in the world of professional wrestling in the United States was bad and stuff. And also 1995 marked the end of two things in WCW: getting rid of Vader, and getting rid of Stunning Steve Austin. Vader was fired after he got into a backstage fight with Paul Orndorff that had WCW Saturday Night TV taping, and WCW fired Stunning Steve Austin over the phone after he went to Japan and got injured. Those were two big mistakes by WCW. Both went to the WWE at the end of 1995. Vader didn't do too much in the WWE, but Steve Austin did after getting stuck with a ridiculous gimmick, the Ringmaster. He eventually became Stone Cold, and the rest is history. That's about it on 1995 in the world of professional wrestling, the worst ever in the United States of America. Hope you enjoyed this, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Be back with the third and final video blog of the night, which will be about former NWA World Champion, the late great Gene Kiniski. Keep calm, and I'm a Julie Brennan guy. Molly Rosenblatt, the Fox 35 rocks and has nice legs. And in the words of Sean Lucha, get out! Bye now!